It's the 22nd of October, and about a week and a half ago, Koko, our dog, died. And this is the story of how it happened. Come here. It's been 2 weeks. We're back at the hospital. We're an hour early. Our appointment was 11. It's 10. So we have to wait again. It's 2 o'clock right now, and we're back. We dropped Koko off at 11 o'clock exactly. We got in to talk to the vet, and there were some explanations, which again I will brief you on at the end of the video. But right now it's 2 o'clock, and we're back to get Koko after another dose of tests to figure out whether his cortisone production has dropped, cortisol production, and we'll see what the outcomes is. So the goal of this was to see the testosterone cortisol production. If it's dropped, and the vet can adjust his medication for the next barrage. Koko came out of his doctor's visit. Good. They shaved him, they put some medicine on him. He's got a lot of lesions. Basically, for the past week and a half, I was unable to motivate myself enough to sit down and edit videos, which is why I haven't posted any videos to the channel. Koko's dying was very sudden, and it kind of left everybody with a void in our lives. I still see ghosts every time I walk past. Well, every time I get home from work, I go to the kitchen, straight to the kitchen, and I look on the floor. Actually, when I first open the door, I expect him to be there. Luckily, Liam is there. So it's kind of like a puppy. And in the kitchen, I always look for piss on the floor, because that's what Koko used to do. He used to whiz, and there is nothing to clean. And where his bed used to be, I always walk past the laundry room and look, and there is nothing there. It's empty. So it's a very strange feeling. Mali and Liam are coping with it a lot better. We actually have the urn with Koko in the house because Liam wanted it there, so that's where it is. But let me just give you a little quick rundown of how it happened, what transpired. So the last video I posted was about we were visiting the hospital with Koko. This was our second visit at the Lee Veterinary Hospital here in Ulsan, and we were supposed to receive our second barrage of medication that was supposed to subdue the symptoms of the Cushing disease. The medicine was not meant to heal, it was just meant to cover up the symptoms. And the vet told us that if the medicine is too high, then basically the dog, Koko, would stop eating, because that was the goal of the medicine. The symptoms of Cushing disease are excessive consumption of food, excessive urination and defecation in dogs, and the medicine is supposed to subdue appetite, I guess, which it did. And literally the night before we visited the hospital, Koko didn't eat his meal, and I thought maybe he's just not hungry, because he's done that in the past as well. So the following Monday, we had an appointment. It was a day off. We had an appointment at 10 a.m. and we came in, and Koko was put through tests once more to determine his present state of Cushing, the Cushing disease, how it's progressed, and results were good. The levels of cortisol in his body have dropped significantly. The testosterone level have dropped, and so the doc was supposed to lower the medicine, which they did, and so I received another barrage of medicine for intake as well as external on skin, because the medicine as well as the disease, one of the symptoms is they cause lesions on the skin, dog skin. And so we received another barrage of medications for the next 2 weeks, which cost another 450,000 won, 460,000 won. And we went home. And when we got home, Koko didn't want to eat his meal. I tried to give him medicine. He didn't want to touch that, and then he started yakking. He started regurgitating nothing in his belly because there was nothing there. But he had the gag reflex, and as if he wanted to vomit, and he kept doing that basically in the evening, and then overnight, and in the morning, and then on Tuesday evening. He was doing it repeatedly, and he was looking very lethargic and very... I stopped giving him medicine on Monday evening. That was the last time. He also didn't eat anything. So he hadn't eaten... By Tuesday evening, he hadn't eaten anything in 3 days, essentially, almost. And we took him down to the hospital in the middle of the night, 9 p.m., which means the hospital was closed. We had to pay extra, I think, like 35,000 won to be admitted. And we went to the 3rd floor, which is where the cat department is. The cat vet is on the 3rd floor, and they took Koko in, did some X-rays, and it turned out that Koko had water in his lungs. There was a buildup of liquid in his lungs, and he was looking very weak, and he was continued yakking, and so we left Koko in, and the vet told us that he could die even tonight. So Mali and I went to the vet. We took him in, and Mali and I, we saw Koko. He was in an incubator type setup, and there was some oxygen being pumped for him to breathe. And we ended up leaving around 10 p.m. We went home. The next day, Lucy, my wife, called the vet, and we had an appointment. We went in midday, and we basically kind of decided that we were going to administer anesthesia, because Koko was the vet already told us that Koko had heartworm and Crohn and the Cushing disease that was severely affecting his life, and the fluid on the lungs, that's supposed to be one of the side effects or one of the things that heartworm causes. Initially, 2 weeks ago, prior to the second visit, the vet looked, and he wasn't, I guess, sure how far the worms had progressed, but one of the symptoms, or one of the things that begin to happen to dogs, heartworms, if untreated, begin to affect things like lungs and other organs. I don't know how long Koko has had heartworm. I don't know the progression of it, but the Cushing disease was progressed quite far. He was losing hair, he had a pot belly, and then I strongly believe that the medicine that was given to us has simply sped up the process. Koko has lost so much weight. He looked so skinny. On Wednesday, when we came in to the vet hospital, Koko looked like a little ghost. There was just his little pot belly. and skin and bones. He didn't have much strength. He got down on the floor. He walked around a little bit, very lethargic, very slowly. And the vet kept saying, basically, we had like a meeting, an hour-long meeting, almost an hour-long meeting with the vet, who explained to Jae-gyung what the issue was, and basically said that if we took Koko home, he could die in the car on the way home, on the ride home. And so it was basically up to me, the decision of whether to take Koko back home and let him die in the house. I don't know, or just put him out of his misery. And to this day, I'm still struggling to understand whether I made the right decision. Even taking the medicine, going to the vet and taking the medicine that was prescribed, and I'm of the mind that the medicine actually made things worse, because they subdued Koko's appetite, which made him stop eating, and I think that what caused him to degenerate so rapidly. Over the duration of literally a month, he went from being a very obese fat dog due to the sudden explosion of Cushing disease. His belly exploded, to just a mere shadow of himself. And so we sat with Koko for about an hour, 2 hours maybe. Lucy cried, Liam cried, everybody cried. And then Mali, Liam and Lucy left, and I stayed with Koko, and the vet administered the anesthetic, and Koko collapsed under my arm. It was a very strange, bizarre experience, because one moment I was looking in his eyes and he looked, awake, aware, and the next his back legs collapsed and he was out. And then there were, I think, 4 shots that the vet administered. First one put the dog to sleep basically, and then the other one stopped his heart. And then the cremation business, whatever it's called, came. They're located in Onyang, and he came, picked up Koko. The veterinary hospital basically gave me Koko in a paper box, and I stood outside waiting for a cab to pick me up, like a meathead, not really knowing what to do. I was dazed. And then I got home to Oktong. Koko was picked up by the fella from the crematorium. I wasn't sure what was happening with that, to be honest, so none of us went, but the guys had a ceremony. We received some pictures, and Koko was cremated, and the next day I went to pick up his ashes, and the amount of ashes was tiny. It was a 7.9 grams, I believe, wrapped in a little in a paper bag, and there was a death certificate that was issued just in case I needed to deregister Koko from the local registration place, which we never did. We never registered him. And because it felt so out of place, Liam wanted to keep Koko. I asked, prior to picking Koko up, the ashes, I asked Mali and Liam said I want to keep him. So I purchased an urn, and Koko is now at home. I feel sad when I think about him, and I feel more confused than anything about whether I made the right decisions in, taking him to the vet with the drugs, and then administering the drugs. Was it right to put him down? Maybe would he have gotten better if we had taken him home? Would he have suffered more if we had taken him home? I have no idea. One thing is certain, is that if we had kept him in a hospital, he probably could have lived a couple of days longer, maybe a couple of weeks longer. It would have cost us an arm and a leg. The bills were racking up very fast, and we probably would have prolonged Koko's life for another couple of weeks, possibly, maybe longer. Again, these are decisions that I'm completely clueless as to what the outcome would have had been. But it's on my mind, and I'm beating myself up over it, I think, because I don't know. I feel guilty for not knowing whether I made the right decision. So that's the story. So my recommendation is, these are 2 things to take for any dog lover. This is something you need to take. And I think maybe not everyone is aware. I have a friend who has a dog, and it seems like he wasn't aware of it. First of all, heartworms are transmitted by mosquitoes, mosquito bites. Mosquitoes are the carriers of the heartworm larva. They themselves obviously don't get heartworms, but they transmit it to dogs, or I guess maybe other animals. And those are incurable, oftentimes detected very, very late much later. And if you're not aware of it, if it's too late, then heartworms are incurable, because essentially heartworms the larvae attach themselves to the outside of the heart, and then they enter the bloodstream through progression of the different stages, and then enter the heart. And once they're in the heart, the only viable option is open heart surgery. And if you just consider that is a serious surgery on a human being, and we're talking about a dog's heart, which is much smaller, and so the cost involved and the procedure itself is just, so it's staggering. So what you need to do as a dog owner is make sure that you get your dog on the heartworm medicine. In Canada, as far as I understand, my mom told me that it's administered twice a year. I think it's an annual thing, or every 5 months you get your dog pills. In Korea, I don't know if it's done on a monthly basis. Whatever the case is, get your dog on heartworm medicine, because that's one disease that can be prevented easily simply by doing that. Cushing disease, on the other hand, is not something that can be prevented, and it's not something that there's no cure for it. And while the medical establishment never tells you that medicines don't cure, they simply muffle up the symptoms, vets at least are honest enough to say that the medicine that they administer will not cure whatever ails the dog. It simply lessens the symptoms to make the disease appear less severe than it actually is, but it doesn't cure anything. And in some cases, as in the case of Koko, I believe that the medicine was actually worse than the disease itself. And so my suggestion to all animal pet lovers, dogs and cats, if your animal is sick, take preventive measures, like take heartworm medicine ahead of time. But if your animal is sick and the veterinarian tells you that you need to spend hundreds of dollars on medicines, seriously consider whether it's actually worth it. Seriously consider whether it's, because the medicine will not cure the disease. Seriously consider whether the medicine will help or make things worse. If the animal is sick and it's uncurable, let it live its last days out in a peaceful way, and then take the measures that you need to take. But really take the time to think about whether you want to administer medicines to your pet, to your dog or your cat, that the vets recommend, because in the end they may not be, they most certainly will not cure, and they may not be great for the pet. So that's it. That's the story. That's how it transpired, and it's sad. And yeah, it's I know some people, some heartless people out there. I know there are a lot of you out there, a lot of heartless people out there. I've seen comments. One particular comment on my last video was somebody said, "I got a solution to your conundrum. Throw the dog in the garbage." It doesn't really bother me that I feel sorry for that person. That kind of mentality, that is psychotic mentality. That is psychotic behavior. I don't care if I don't care about dogs or if I don't care about pets, but I would have some empathy towards another human being who's grieving over something simple as a pet. And to them, it's a family member. It's an animal that lives with you for a prolonged duration of time, and whether you like it or not, if you're a normal human being, stable in your mind, you will develop a bond with the animal. My mother had a dog for 13 years, and she the dog passed away, died many years ago, and she never got another dog. She just can't get over it. So yeah, in order to fill some of the void, we got a couple of little hamsters. But anyway, that's the story of Koko, and that's also the story of why I haven't been uploading videos to the channel in a couple of weeks, because I simply didn't have the motivation to sit down and start editing anything before I made this video. So after this video, once I edit this, actually I don't know if I'm gonna edit this, I might just upload this video the way it is. So after this video I will begin to edit all the other videos that are in the back burner, and there are a few of them, so a lot of the videos will be recorded or uploaded with a delay. Thank you all for listening and sharing our troubles. If this message is something that you think other people might benefit from, if it helps other people to deal with their grief over the passing of their pets, then feel free to share. And in the meantime, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye. What you dancing about, Koko? It's good to have a rooftop, Koko, huh? If you can't go to the park, at least you can hang out here and craze around a little bit. Speak! Koko, speak! Speak! No, we haven't taught you that. Speak! Ruff. Say something. Okay, do a little dance. Go! Dance! Dance, a little monkey!